and then the solo.
Yeah, it's just.
I don't even want to solo out different because it's so lyrical. His solo is so good.
It's incredible, man. Yeah. Maybe we can talk about him. If we talk about him on this thing, then you might need more than 45 minutes. You might have to rein me in a little bit. No. Well, cool, man.
Yeah. Is when you were doing this Steve? Maybe I missed this part when you guys were talking. But is that a gig that you were putting together?
Yeah,
Like
it's like a whole
project?
show. Yeah. We're doing it in May at the O'Reilly Theater in Pittsburgh, and that's the one Nigel's on.
Okay.
And the band is nuts. Alex Brown's playing.
Okay.
And and then my guys, Throck and Brandon, bass player, and then we're doing it again at the Tri-C Jazz Fest with the same. Me, Throck, and Brandon. Then this piano player named Alexis Lombre.
Okay.
And then who else is? There's another. Oh, Phil Jones, the guy who wrote the Stickology, and the singers are Nicole Zaritis and Jennifer Hartswick, and then Tommy Lehman's a great trumpet player, singer, and Hamilton Harden.
Nice. And these are all your arrangements?
Yeah.
Sick, bro.
Yeah, we're going like we do all is fair in love from Intervisions. We'll do it like love's a crazy game. Two people lies and stay. You know, that one goes over nicely. But so yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Just there's so much great music, man. I might actually do a whole album of his music because like I have a whole just book of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because when I think about like music that we play on gigs, I mean, it's just like when I think about how much of it's Stevie's music, I'm like, well, there we go. Like that, he's got to be up there in one of the top composers of an era.
Yeah, of several generations. Yeah.
Yeah, because like there's no one that sounds like him.
Mm-mm.
There's no one that writes like him.
Mm-mm.
And every single is just hit.
Even the ones that we do that aren't Stevie are Stevie. Like, can't help it.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Right. You think you're getting away from it, and then you're like,
oh wait, he wrote that one too.
Yeah. What about?
oh right.
Yeah, that's Stevie too.
Yeah.
You know, and then what about look, you don't call anymore. I sit and wait.
That makes sense.
That's Stevie too, man. You know, he wrote it for Aretha. I'm gonna rap on your door, tap on your window pane. You know, that's another one with you don't know what key he's in. Until babe, changes I've been going through, missing you until you come back to me. That's what I'm gonna do. And then it goes back to I mean,
that's what makes so amazing about his music, or just his approach, is that it's so strongly focused on the melody that's what as a player when you're learning the music, how is he able to get it's almost in more of a pop genre, getting all of this much more advanced harmony to sound natural.
Yeah.
Because you think about how many keys he's taken people through songs and all this stuff, it's like But if you were to sit down and be like, oh, I'm gonna take it, then it doesn't sound good. So to me, it's because the melody's so strong. Then he's harmonizing it to his personality, but it just flows. You're along for the ride because the melody's so strong.
Oh, without a doubt, and it's just like this music is so sacred. I mean, one of the great things, and we might be able to say this for the podcast, but like one of the greatest things about his music is like if you take away the music, you have a poem.
Oh, right.
Like he and I tell you this to the audiences when I do the Stevie shows. I'm like, you know, like there's like a quiet moment in the set where I'm like, just listen to this section of As, you know, where he says, we all know sometimes life's hates and trouble will make you wish you were born in another time and place, but you can bet your life times that and twice, that's double, that God knew exactly where he wanted you to be placed. So make sure when you say you're in it but not of it, you're not helping to make this world a place sometimes called hell. Change your words into truth and then change that truth into love, and maybe our children's grandchildren and their great-grandchildren will tell. Like, who thinks of that stuff, man?
That is so deep.
You know?
Yeah, it's so deep. And then he's just in a song, you know, you're just...
Yeah, he's like, I'll be loving you. You know?
That's it's really true.
Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, having gone through so much of his music, is there anything that you've picked out as like a Stevieism or something that you feel like you... Because, I mean, going through so much of that music, you'd feel like...
Yeah, there are some things...
What have you learned, I guess, from...
Well, I learned to be surprised. I mean, but like there's some things that you can count on, you know, at least some parts of his albums. You know, that's gonna be somewhere there. You know what I'm saying? Like, was it? Please don't go, babe. Please don't go. Please don't go. Sorry. Wow. Oh, if you go, I'll be sad and blue. So I said, baby, stay. You know, right. You can count on that progression being there somewhere in there, because like he's got And You and I. It's almost the same progression, but it's just way slower, you know?
Yeah.
But he's going to find some way to surprise you. Because he's just like... I put him up there with, like, Strayhorn, Duke, all the great composers.
For sure. That's what I'm saying. It's just he also does love that fourth voicing. He does it whether he's doing the bridge of Don't Worry About a Thing. But that could be anything, like when we were talking about Overjoyed. It's the same thing, he's doing it going up. So he just loves harmonize. That's part of that chordal sound is also very deep into everything he's doing.
Without a doubt. The same thing happens in Creeping. The fourth thing.
Yes.
Boom, boom, boom. And the bridge to Creeping, man, like... Wait, let's see. When I'm asleep at night, baby, I feel those moments of ecstasy. When I'm asleep at night, baby, when you're asleep at night, baby, I wonder, do I creep in your dreams, or could it be I sleep alone in my fantasy? You always creep in my dreams. What? I mean, yeah. So that I'm just delving into that songbook. It's just been like you remember watching Game of Thrones, like, you know nothing, Jon Snow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know nothing. You know. It's crazy, man. He just constantly, to see his evolution over the years, it's just like from even when he was like young, and playing Hey Love, may I have a word with you? going through. You know, just
Yeah.
like that simple stuff was
Yeah.
still, there was something profound there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But, yeah. Anyway, we can, let's do the thing, man.
Go beyond Stevie.
Yeah.
Was
Was that recording?
It is recording, yeah.
Oh, snap.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
I assume so. So I was
Yeah.
just push it through.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can keep talking about Steve if you want.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
cool with
yeah,
that.
we've played his music a lot, but I think you, especially when you're approaching a show, like that's why I asked, like, what have you learned? Because I'm noticing things as a pianist, you know, in his keys and in the voicings and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, you're delving into the music and even having to like maybe rearrange it, and like we were talking about, that's like a delicate process with his music because it is so masterful already.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I have to be really, really careful to how I harmonize it. Like, cause I do one of his tunes, called Another Star. That's off of Songs in the Key of Life.
Mm.
So like his arrangement is. So it's like for you, no, sorry, for you, there may be another star, but to my eyes, the light of you is all I see. You know, so right there, like that's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I came up with this intro after listening to Herbie's album, the New Standard. And he redid You Got It Bad Girl, you know. And all the feeling, you got it bad girl. So like he swung it like super hard, like you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, man, I'd like to do something like that, and so I searched around for one of the tunes, and I landed on Another Star. I was like, man, we could swing that one, you know. And so I wrote this intro. It's like. So, and the melody, it keeps it the same. So like once we get into it, for you, there may be another star. There we go. For you, there may be another song. You know, so like. Little subtle things like that, I would put them in, you know, but not. I wouldn't just reharmonize it to the point of like, oh, what song is this?
It just opens up for a moment, like you lean into that just to let them know.
Exactly. So like we going then the bridge from so long ago, my heart without demanding. That no other love would do. But listen, did I not to understanding? I'm in love with one who would break my heart in two. You know what I mean? So like the juice is already there. You know what I'm saying? So I just take very little things, and maybe I tweak one or two things. But like I never like tear the song apart and you know, to where it's unrecognizable, you know.
And I'm sure it's still gonna sound different. Like, you know,
Sure.
It's not Stevie performing the song.
Yeah, I surely am not Stevie.
No, but you're gonna bring your own flavor. You have different vocalists, so it's already cool in that sense already. Like to the audience, it's gonna be like, but some of that subtle stuff is, you know, like still cool that you can put that in.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like just one of my all-time I'm really in awe of his musical output. Just the quality of it over several generations. You know, I mean, just all the stuff from. It's like my mom used to have a bunch of his records, and so I would listen to like Music of My Mind, and that's because everybody plays. When the summer came, you were not around. Now the summer's gone, love cannot be found. Where were you when I needed you last winter? But I love the track that leads into that. Baby wants to be a superwoman.
Yes.
All the things she wants to be, she needs to leave behind. Very well, girl, I think I know you very well. Wishing you very well, and I think I did everything going through your head. See, he takes you through.
Yeah.
Like you're like flirting with like parallel major and minor.
Yeah.
And the way he gets you from place to place is just like, whoa.
It's truly insane. Like, 'cause sometimes he does it with one chord.
Yeah.
And it's just that good.
Yeah, man.
But most of the time, I like that he's doing it with like a motivic idea, like a melody.
Sure.
That's what we remember, and then all that cool harmony is just stacked onto it.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy. Who are some of the other, like, so if Stevie's one of those ones that you consider like, all time, are there any other composers that, because you're always playing, when we're filming or when we're here, you're always playing between takes, like music that you're loving. So I guess what I'm at is, what are some of the artists that you keep returning to, like Stevie?
Well, there's a bunch of Brazilian ones. One in particular is Toninho Horta. Toninho is like, he's another one of those guys, man, that just like every tune he writes or every tune he's written, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, especially his first album, it's self-titled, Toninho Horta. It was, I think, released in 1980. It's got like young Pat Metheny on it. It's really cool, man, because you can hear where Pat got some of his identity. Pat already had a strong identity. Ever since he just hit the scene, he was just always, just a great musician. But you can tell Toninho rubbed off on him because he's got that tune Manuel Aldaz, so it's like Si já me sei o meu nome, se eu já não sei falar, viajar é mais, eu vejo mais a rua, estrada com Jeep amarelo. Little stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? And he has that tune I was playing earlier, Akio, and it's like it's got this section that's like. And then I heard Pat Metheny, that album, the classic album, Still Life Talking, the one with do 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 we do do do. So there's a section in there on the tune. What's the name of that tune? Oh, that's gonna kill me. I just played it on a gig.
That's one we used to play in combo.
Yeah, it's just talk.
Yeah.
It's just talk. So there's a section in there where it's like, it's Will's way up there.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder how much of that was influenced by, you know. You know, so that's a question I got for Pat. Pat, where you at?
He can comment below.
Right. Let me know in the comments, Pat. It's like I ain't got time for you.
Yeah.
But like, and there's another one, Pat Metheny.
Yeah.
That's one where I really just gotten kind of obsessed with his songbook.
Yeah.
You know, I think the first one I ever learned was.
Oh yeah.
That is the perfect song.
Yeah. We used to play that one ages ago.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite Metheny ones.
Yeah, it's like everything about it is perfect, man. And you know, he even said when we did the NEA Jazz Master concert for him, he was just like, you know, I have to tell you, I derive sort of a perverse pleasure from seeing bebop saxophone players crash and burn over that bridge. Because, you know, the bridge is like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like if you're not thinking, if you don't really know the tune, then it's like that's a tough bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I think what interesting thing that saved me on that bridge was playing gospel, because those slash chords are all over gospel. That's a church progression all day, you know. So it was thankfully it was a little easier for me to process, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Pat, that's another one. Like you hear his like we were talking about like pet ideas. You hear his pet ideas, but you always look forward to them.
Yeah.
You're like, he's doing that thing again.
Yeah.
You know, you know. It's like, I don't get tired of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's like the vocabulary you come to expect and love from the player is like, yeah, and even if it's a different version of that pet idea, you can kind of hear it throughout a bunch of their different recordings and like hear them developing it.
Yeah, yeah. And that like the way Pat uses the giant steps progression and I can think of like in a bunch of his tunes, like we talked about, it's just talk. You know, right, and then you know. Then he goes to the bridge. You know what I mean? And he has another one from the Metheny Meldow album. This tune called Amid 6. It's like, I don't know, I have no idea what the title means, but it's like every chord change you can think of, but like he has a section in it that's like Trying to remember the. Something like that. I can't think of it right now. But like it goes through giant steps in a really unique way. But like he kind of uses the same harmonic device in those other two tunes. That like a question and answer and it's just talk.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that's maybe we're talking about, especially if we're talking about education and jazz education, it seems like based on what you were talking about with Stevie, with Pat Metheny, and some of the other stuff we already kind of know about how you've learned stuff, that you go really deep on, and like with, I was going to say Kenny Kirkland, go really deep on certain artists to kind of learn a lot of their work like over the years. And I think it's really interesting that as a comparison to, you know, what we call it, like what you like calling like the jazz hacks type of approach, which is very shallow. So I don't know, maybe there's something there that you could discuss about your approach in learning this material.
Yeah, man. I think I've always found it more useful, you know, because I never really transcribed solos. Mm-hmm. I transcribed parts of solos, but I always found it more useful and more immersive to learn the music, the songbook of the player that I idolize. Mm. You know, so when I first got into Wes Montgomery, I was like, oh man, he's playing some incredible stuff. So I learned some of the stuff, mm-hmm. you know, but I felt like he was a great composer. He's a great composer, man. You know, I learned a lot more about how he thought by, you know, and his habits by learning his music. You know, the freaking rusty on it, but you know, just like I learned a lot more about how he thought, like Twisted Blues, like the way he navigates those chromatic 2/5. Yeah, you know, like that's what he was hearing. Mm-hmm. So when I learned that, I was like, oh, and that opened up. Like when I listened to him play on other stuff, I was able to figure out what he was doing because I had learned that stuff. Same way with I mean, anybody, like with when I got real heavy into Chick Corea, you know, I was really partial to that record, the Return to Forever record, Light as a Feather, and so like I learned all the tunes off of that record, and then I started seeing like how Chick thought about different chord progressions and how you move through those progressions, and so I would go back and listen to Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, Tones for Jones Bones, and records like that, and I started to see those tendencies show up time and time again, you know, because like, I mean, even somebody as dynamic as Chick or Pat Metheny, they're gonna have those their ideas are gonna go. They're gonna have similar ideas, you know. They're gonna have, or I should say, consistent ideas that kind of flow through their development as composers. And so when you can pick up on that stuff, I think it's more of a useful tool. Like you learn, it's like, you know, with when you learn from a master of anything, I think you pick up more of their habits. Like when you it's great to learn their techniques, but like when you watch them as how they move through life, I think that's a really more valuable experience. You know, like you guys do jiu-jitsu. I'm sure, you know, when you watch your mentors, like I'm sure you watch more than what they do on the mat. You know,
Oh yeah, it's more than just a technique. It's
Right.
like it's like you're saying. It's the whole approach is actually the actual answer.
Right, like how much of jujitsu is like, imagine if somebody came up and like, learn these 7 kicks.
Yeah.
You know, to like
Well,
master
they have that on
self-defense.
YouTube, yeah, exactly. But that's how funny it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
insane, man. Like learn
Yeah.
these 7 kicks and master jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's nuts to me, man.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I never really got much out of like learn this lick. I'll learn this lick. This is cool, and that's what took my playing to the next level. Not at all, man.
Would you say you listen more than you practice, or is I'm just distinguishing for the sake of the kind of practice, because in a sense I'm sure the way you're listening is a form of practice. But do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, because I think I even the videos of you on the road that you post where you're just like on a drive to a gig, you're probably listening for 5 hours. And how many hours that day did you get to be at your guitar?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's like this past summer when I would have a gig maybe like for example when I played Newport, I drove to Newport because like flights were crazy expensive. So I just rented a car and drove there. It was like 9 hours. I was jamming. Like I listened to like, man, let's see. I listened to Jennifer Hartswick's new album that was new at the time. I listened to that all the way through, and it was really, and that's what really made me want to work with her. You know, I like kind of absorbed the music. I listened to Kenny Kirkland's album all the way through, his solo record. Listened to Megawatts, Tane. I listened to Charlie Parker, Washington concerts all the way through. You know, it just like it really, the stuff just soaks into your psyche. You know what I mean? So that's the type of practicing that I've always done. Like I remember when I was at YSU as a grad student, it was exactly 1 hour from my house to campus, and I would go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I would listen to Miles Davis, all the way through. So like I can almost sing the solos. You know, I got to a point where like as soon as Train came in, me and Train was like this. You know,
it's hilarious you say that because every time you plug your phone into the car, my phone has it where it plays that alphabetically like high, like whatever is A, the first track. It always plays it no matter what. I can't like change that setting.
Yeah.
So I have like the opening minute of like this Tony Monaco track like ingrained in my brain because I've probably heard it for 7 years.
Yeah.
Every time it just automatically starts the music player every time. So to what you're saying, that's a great strategy. I'd also say like nowadays, imagine that's also probably like if you're not getting enough listening in, then to expect that you're gonna have ideas coming out. You know that there's discrepancies there, and more than ever today, like we have a lot more options of what to listen to in the car.
Oh yeah.
Like how many musicians are even listening most of the time in the car? You know. So I do think it's really important that I think obviously it shows that you're doing such an immense amount of listening that you're able to connect the ideas across composers and players, that you're absorbing the music. I know I'm not getting enough listening like that.
Man, yeah, it's like it really is a lifestyle. It's like a really important family friend just told me something years ago just about how to think about spirituality and and he was just like, don't make it homework, don't make it a lifestyle, and that's how I've approached music. It's not just like, oh man, I gotta get 7 hours of listening, I gotta do this, I gotta take notes, I'm just like, listen, I'm going to the gas station, so that is about a song and a half away. You know what I'm saying?
You're calculating distance as a song. That's exactly.
Yeah, man. That's how I get into it. So like, and when you go meet some of these people, it's nice to. It's almost like you've done like your proper research on them. Like a guitarist that I really admire, who's like I consider him like in my peer group, is Chico Pinheiro. And first got turned on to his music about, let's see, this was like maybe 7 years ago, something like that. And this great drummer, the first drummer I ever played with in New York, Adriano Santos, we were doing some gigs in Ohio, and he was staying at my place, and I was like, I need some new Brazilian music to check out, and he put on some of Chico's music, and I was like, from note one, I was like, huh? What is this? And I think the track was I'm probably in the wrong key, and I was like, what, man, that's a groove, man. And then he put on this I was like, what is this? What kind of sorcery is this, man? So I checked out. I went back and I found out he recorded like 5 or 6, maybe like 3 or 4 records before that, and I went and got them all, and you know, I learned a bunch of his tunes, and then I finally got the chance to meet him, and he was like really surprised, like. He was talking about like some of his music, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the 1 and 3, that's the Maraca 2 and 3, right? He was like, how do you know this? I'm like, oh yeah, I listen to all your stuff, and I know all of your music. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like I've done that to a couple artists. I did that to Dave Holland. I met him once. I met him a couple times, but this was the first time in Toronto, and like that's another artist who for me can do no musical wrong. And I'm not like even Mr. like let's explore the outer limits. You know, I'm not like Mr. Out player, but like even the out stuff he did, man, I'm pretty much on board with that. But I learned like a bunch of the music from his quintet records, and even like his early stuff from the 80s, you know. Homecoming, the stuff he did with John Abercrombie and Jack DeJohnette, those trio records. There's just, yeah, I'm on board with all that stuff. And so I went up to him. I was like, Mr. Holland, I'm a huge fan. I know a ton of your tunes. And he's like, no kidding. Send me a tape. But like a dummy, I never did. So we haven't had the chance to play together, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that'll change one day.
Just gotta send him to your album. Here's my next demo. Before it gets out.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you been stealing all my stuff. You know.
There's one just to tie it back to Stevie and to the story you're talking about as far as learning other guys' music. John Clayton and Jeff Clayton had come to UNF.
Yeah. And
Jeff Clayton was telling this story of how he was learning all of Stevie's music. Like he learned all of it. And then when an opportunity came up where he was auditioning to be playing with Stevie in the band. Yeah. He knew all the music. Steve was like, "You're in,
man."
So like, like it wasn't that like the actual opportunity of getting that chance for the audition. It was him. I think he had talked about it like this, where that was like his ideal gig. Like he was like, I want to do that gig. I'm learning all of this.
Yeah, and imagine the stuff he absorbed.
Oh yeah, even if he didn't get the gig, that was just like.
Remember he said that he was going into audition, and then because of that, like the audition turned into like a 4-hour jam or something.
Oh.
He was saying that because like Think about it. Like, you tell Stevie, "Oh, I know all your stuff," and Stevie's like, "Oh." So he said that Stevie sat down, and then they just went through tune after tune after tune, and then I think that's what really sealed the deal. Cause it's kind of like that. I even remember Questlove posting once that he said like, Stevie's the guy where you want him to play all of his songs, and he loves sitting down and just playing all of it.
That's incredible, man.
If that's true, that's amazing, because you just want your favorite artist to like love that music and be like the epitome of that.
Yeah, I think if I wrote like that all that stuff, I think I'd be at the crib like I'm sweet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like and that's the way to get a gig.
Yeah.
That's
well, it shows like an immense amount of respect ahead of meeting the person, because it's not like something you could have just looked up. You literally had to have dedicated time into that.
Oh yeah.
And
so they know you're serious.
And also, so many people say that. So many people, I've heard your stuff, I've done that. So when it's tested, it's like the real. It goes beyond what they've probably heard a million times.
Yeah.
They've heard everyone say, "Oh, I know your stuff," when they know it's a cursory kind of statement sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, later on, I would learn on a gig with Carl Allen. We were talking about McBride and just like how was a musical titan he is, and he was like, man, he's like, when I was playing with Freddie Hubbard, McBride came in the green room, sat down at the piano. He was like, Mr. Hubbard, I love your music. I'm a huge fan, and started playing all of Freddie's tunes on piano. And I, like when I started playing this band, I was like, "Did you really do that?" He was like, "I wanted that gig bad." I was like, "Man,
that sounds about right."
He did the same thing to Chick Corea.
Okay,
that's right. He told that story. Where? Oh my gosh, I've heard him tell that story multiple times about different artists.
Yeah,
that's
man.
McBride's secret move.
Right. That's some
McBride special.
Yeah. You hear him playing piano, you're like, wait, whose tunes he learning?
Right.
Who's he trying to get a gig with?
I'm sure it's
Sting. Is that Sting's music?
Yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, he knows a couple people's songbooks, and he has like a crazy memory. Like we had a gig in Philly, where Jennifer Hartswick was opening for us. She was playing a duo with this really killing guitar player, Nick. His last name starts with a C. Man, I feel bad. But he could really play. But McBride was like, yeah, I'm sitting with Jennifer and Nick, but I don't know if I remember that songbook, man. There's a lot of stuff to remember. And he sits in, plays the show flawlessly.
Yeah.
And me and Emmett are backstage like, he said he didn't really remember the songbook, but it's like, it sounds like they've been rehearsing for like 7 days. It was, all these hits going everywhere, changes going everywhere. He's just like,
he's just
like nailing it. And then I was like, wow, I guess we have to play a gig after that. All right. But that's that's a skill that is very valuable, and I think, like when I tell younger musicians, like, think about a band that you want to play with, that you really want to play with. I don't care what style it is. Learn that songbook. Try to learn that songbook, and even if you learn half of it, and then when that person comes to town, you go up to them, find some way to meet them, and be like, if they're signing autographs, and say, "Sir, ma'am, I know your entire songbook." That's gotta, no matter who it is, that's gotta have some effect on them. Forget about all the stuff that you absorb in the process, and how sharp your ears become.
And that's also just I think that's such a better approach in this day and age where it feels overwhelming, where you almost, there's just so many great artists.
Yeah. And
you're just like, you gotta learn everybody. I think your approach is a much better strategy, not only to make sure it's deep. It's like you're not just cursory going through every saxophonist that ever lived. It's like you pick someone, you go really deep, you get that, and then you start attaching on to that. Yeah. You just move on to the next one.
Yeah, man. You have to start at what moves you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that might be Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, and why not? You know, start with what moves you, and then, like you said, attach all this stuff to it, and before you know it, you got a whole friggin' arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you can also really articulate why it moves you after doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't go deep enough, you're not going to be able to get to the nitty gritty of like, you might really learn why I love that, and then that helps point you to the next direction for the next artist you might really love.
Yeah.
Because you start to recognize, oh, that element in someone else.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Well, you've played with some of the great. I mean, you mentioned McBride, but you know Joey DeFrancesco, and you've had the just such incredible experiences playing with some of the true masters. Is there anything you can, besides some of their approaches on the learning material?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there anything at all lessons that you've learned while being on the road with them or playing shows with them? Because I'm sure there's a ton.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest was Monty Alexander.
Mm.
He's like one of the most unique individuals. I did a week with him at Dizzy's, and we did some other stuff at some other places I can't remember. But man, just playing with him, I called him up. I was like, Monty, thank you for having me on the gig. Is there any music that I should check out, or any music that I should learn? He was like, Dan Wilson, this is Monty Alexander calling. I don't have any music for you, but cause I don't read or write any music. All I ask you is, man, is just trust my direction. And I point to you, then you'll know it's your turn to play. I'm like, what?
That sounds like a frightening gig.
Man, I was on my toes the whole time, man. Like, and he
exactly what I didn't want to hear.
right. And there were a couple times where I was like, I was a little lost in the sauce,
Mm-hmm.
because like they would play they played Love for Sale, and on the bridge, he and the bass player Hassan Shakur had some alternate changes that went through some Coltrane / Monty.
You'll hear it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I was playing some wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And I see him go back from the piano. He turns to Hassan and starts laughing. I'm like, man, what? It's not
Got
funny.
him.
Yeah, right.
Got him.
It's like, it's not funny to me.
Yeah, right.
So wait, you're telling me you showed up to the gig, he had zero.
Zip.
He didn't tell you anything. And he's like, okay, cool, down, see you there.
Yeah, that was about it, man.
How many times is that the situation?
Well, Joey would do that to us all the time. Like he would never have a set list. So I was kind of prepared, and even before the Joey gig, I played at church, so I would play testimony service.
Mm.
And I talked about this in a couple interviews, but I would play testimony service, and like people would get up and they tell about their week,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they would break in the song, and you had to find them. One of these numbers. Okay, all right. So they might be singing like, what would it profit you? Or we sing that slower. What would it profit you? And so you gain the world and lose your soul. We have to find where they are every time, and sometimes we playing in B, like all these weird keys that you normally don't find yourself in, so that really helped me out that week. Like after the second or third night, then I started to see where Monty was taking it. I was like, okay, so, and he would play some tunes that I knew, like from the Bob Marley songbook, because that was big for me. I listened to a lot of that music in high school. I loved what's the turn your lights down low. let me play that one solo.
Oh, nice.
Like he was like, so next on the agenda here, we're gonna and he kind of stopped for a second, and he was like, we have a guitar player, our guest, Mr. Dan Wilson. Why don't you play that Bob song? I was like, huh? You know the one you were playing in sound check. I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, it's always on the spot. And then later on that year, he called me to play. He heard I was at Dizzy's with Joey, and he called me to play my first time in Newport. That was my first time in Newport with Monty Alexander, and I remember, like, I'll never forget. We traded fours on Day-oh, Day-oh, Daylight Come Baby One Go. And he was playing the most killing stuff on melodica.
Oh wow!
Like we were trading. It was melodica, and then he looked out the corner of his eye. He looked at me, and he was like, do 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 do. I was like, do 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 do. You know, it was like that was such a great experience because, like, you know, you could really hear the history of that music and what he was playing, like all the time feel that he had and all the vocabulary. It was great, man.
But so are you saying, just so I get it straight, so you show up, there is no set list, there's nothing. You play the first night. It's both the combination of the fact, obviously, that you're even called in the first place, that there's like was he drawing from repertoire that you had to know, right? Like, or is it by night 3, 4, and 5 you're like, okay, I know does the map kind of appear?
Yeah, kind of. The picture starts to get a little more in focus, but a lot of some of the stuff that I like the Bob Marley repertoire, I knew that stuff from high school. I just listened to it all the time. But and some of the other Jamaican stuff, I used to really be into that. I loved it, like the Minto and stuff from like the Jolly Boys and stuff like that. And the band members, like the rhythm guitar player Andy Basford was instrumental in helping me out. He's like, yeah, so Monty will probably, he might call this, but then, you know, he'll probably, you know.
So he gave you some of that.
They helped me out, man. And the drummer, Carl Wright, was just laying it down. And I think Obed Calvert was part of the jazz side. And he had 2 drummers. It was the Harlem Kingston Express.
Dope.
It was a great experience, man. But no set list, no prior warning.
That's so cool. Because like what you were talking about repertoire earlier, you know, basically learning songbooks. You start putting that together, and you start being ready for the, you know, expect the unexpected. Yeah,
that is it, man. Like and on that too, like we're going all these great artists. One that I'm preparing myself for is Kenny Garrett. So like I'm having to go back. I'm learning. I'm working on songbook. That's just like, I think we might have talked about that.
Well, you had that playing in the car the last time you were here.
That's right.
The whole time.
Man.
Listen.
Yeah, man. That's a freaking research project, man. This got Kenny Kirkland in it, so of course Kenny can do no wrong in my opinion. But that album really changed my life. I started playing a lot of those tunes with organ trio, like just like that whole record, it's got everything you want to hear on it. It's swinging. It's got the it's really like a sign of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it was they did it in like 95 or 96, something like that. I forgot what year it was, but it was like truly a sign of the time. You know, just like lightning in a bottle. The entire record was just every tune is a masterpiece. You know, so
Yeah, I wasn't mad. That was the good soundtrack for the Cars.
woo.
That was a blast.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot of amazing gigs, but I was asking you earlier before the cameras rolling what to think about if you have any stories of like maybe a gig that wasn't like a worse gig or something that was really like unbelievable. Because you always think you've seen it all when you so there's some gigs where you're like, this has got to be the strangest gig I've ever been on, and then there's always enough.
Yeah. Well, there's two instances that I can think of where the first time I played at Mary Ann's in Bern, Switzerland, and that's a sweet gig, man. Like you usually play there like a week. You're in this like 5-star hotel in the Alps, and like every night you just come down and they got like this killer menu, and you play 2 sets, go back up to your room, and go to sleep. You know, and then during the daytime you can walk around Bern. It's a beautiful place. So when I first got there, you know, Joey's trio was, you know, pretty new, and we got there, we're on stage, and you know, we're burning through some stuff, and I was like, Joey, man, I got the BGs, man. He was like, the BGs, what are those? The bubble guts, man. You know, like I was catching like a stomach bug, and he's like, oh, okay, I got you, man. And he's like, he goes on the mic, he goes, anybody want an encore? I'm like, no, man, come on, man, come on. And so we play this long encore. I'm like feeling like I'm gonna die. And soon as he's like, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Take care of yourselves. Have a good night. I left my guitar on the stage, ran to the bathroom, and you know, I thought I was alone. So I'm like, I'm getting ready to release the hounds here, man. So and I hear somebody in the next stall go, Dan, is that you? I'm like, oh man. It was Joey. He caught the same stomach bug and somehow beat me to the bathroom. So man, we in there like, I was like,
It's quite a hit, wasn't it, Joe? Wasn't it?
I was like, what in the world? And he was like, and that was like one of the moments that kind of broke the ice in the band. But like it started off. Yeah, man.
Hold hands under the song.
Can you pass me a square?
Yeah.
Can you spare a square?
Man, but and there was another gig in like rural New Jersey and Troy was in the band, and I forgot the name of the town, but it was like farm country New Jersey, and we were out there. And Joey had gotten stressed out, was trying to find a place, and he was like, Joey would always argue with the GPS. So like GPS would be like, in 27 feet, turn left, and he'd be like cursing at the GPS, like, so me and Jason knew not to get involved, and Troy was new in the band, so he was like, hey, Joey, do you reckon maybe we should follow the line of GPS? And Joey's like, oh, you reckon? Well, you reckon? Well, I reckon I don't listen to you. It was like, man, there you go. Troy looks back at us. We're like,
that's so funny though, because like, you know, Troy and Joey are very close too. You know, like, so that's cool to hear that early stage where he's like,
yeah, it was funky. It was funky. And then when we got to the stage, unbeknownst to us, Orrin Evans' band had we were supposed to go on before us, but the tech crew was so rude to them. Oren packed up his band and said, "We're not playing here." So we were walking into that, and the dude setting up the sound, I was like, we're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was like, "Cause like it's been a long effing day." We're like, "Oh, okay," and that has something to do with us. All right, and so Jason's asking him. He's like, "Do you, hey man, do you have this kind of snare? I usually like this kind of set. I don't know, man. Just look in the cases." And Jason he's not a small dude, and and the dude keeps on egging him on, and finally Jason is like, "Look, bro, like I told you, man, stop talking to me like that." Yeah. And he's like towering over the cat, and the guy's like, "Oh man, hey man, just come on, just calm down, man. Just it's been a long day, man." Like it was
tense.
It was real tense, man. So that was one of the toughest gigs. Like I was ready to like take this cat and throw him off of the stage. Yeah. And Joey like had to talk us down. So I was like, "Jason, you trying to go in on this cat?" Yeah. And Joey was like, "No, guys, just let's just play the gig." But I was ready to like, yeesh. I was ready to move some furniture, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. But that was very satisfying to see that guy get really scared. But Jason stood up because he didn't know he was that big.
Yeah. He's sitting at the drums. Yeah.
Oh, man. Crazy times, man.
That's wild. Well, it's so cool. I mean, you know, to just be playing with all these greats. That's a true honor. You know.
I'm thankful, man, because I never lived in New York. You know, I was just like, and I'm really thankful to Joey for you know, kind of giving me that initial exposure, and to Carmen and Torre for recommending me to his band, because like, you know, I was just kind of like I wasn't gonna move out of Akron. You know, I like living there. You know, but you know, and that kind of helps me, you know, seek out players that maybe don't have a huge platform, you know, but are serious about their craft. You know, I mean, there's some bad dudes that a lot of us haven't heard of. Yeah. Some bad musicians. There's some bad women and dudes that we haven't heard of yet. You know, so I'm always like on the hunt for some.
I always think it's like the baddest cats are the ones who are definitely not online because they're so bad. They're so into just doing the craft. Yeah. They're like, well, like it's not a thought in their mind to do anything else. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you'll never hear about them unless you're locally around, and they'll be like, "Oh, if you haven't heard that cat." Yeah.
So it's like the Mike Gerber.
Yes. Down here, this cat Mike Gerber. It's just a legend, just incredible. This guy's insane.
He's like a virtuoso at another level. Blind pianist, and he's on another level. Yeah,
but you'll never. Yeah. You know, he's not going to be on social media. He's an older gentleman. He's just not going to see that. Yeah. So that's kind of like that. That's actually like a tough struggle about finding genius.
I'm sure
you know,
Emmett knows him, right?
Huh?
Emmett.
I'm sure Emmett knows him because Emmett was down there. You know. But still, yeah, you can ask Emmett about him. But I'm just saying, like, I took a couple lessons with him. It was just like you're just standing over him, like over his shoulder, like while he's just playing. Like, when I was a kid, and I'm just like, the whole lesson is that. Like, if anything, the best use of it would just put a recorder, like, just record the whole lesson. Learn it over the next 10 years. Yeah. Come back after 10 years, and then because for him it was like, he's just like, then you just do this, and I'm like, yeah, then you just.
Yeah.
So that to kind of what you're saying, that's cool that you felt like that was done to you, and then now you're doing that with members.
Yeah,
that you like to play with.
Especially after Joey died, man. Like that really. Because all those memories came like flooding back, man. It was a really tough period, man. Like I was like, I would just be going. I'd be in the car, man. I would just like start weeping, man. You know, just thinking about like all the stuff that all the people he introduced us to, and like he wasn't like shy about it either. He was like, man, this is my band. Like these are some bad dudes, man. And then, you know, cats would be like, oh, okay, and they would hear us play. Like, all right, yeah, man, I got this gig here, and you know, that opened up a lot for us, man. Like, and I was, cause right after it happened, like I called Jason because he didn't know, and man, we were just like weeping on the phone, man, because like he said that I really learned that, you know, what I was capable of on that gig, you know, and that's a hard thing to say goodbye to, man. You know, just somebody who has done that much for you, you know, and like it got to the point where like I had to like actually like employ like a grief counselor, man, because it was weighing so heavily on me, and I found like you know, like ways to, like the grief counselor just, he would say like, we'll find a way to memorialize him and to continue on the lessons that you learn from him. And one of those was like he would seek out, you know, somebody who just had quick ears, you know, and give them a platform, be like, and hire them, you know. Like he would always go back to Philly and find cats like oh yeah, this is cat Victor North, man. This cat Kari Shaheed, this drummer, man. You gotta hear this cat, man. He's just guys just kind of knocking around Philly, and he put him in the band, you know. So like that's kind of like my example, and just advocacy for serious musicians, no matter who they are, you know, or where they are, you know. They don't have to have like a status, but like it's kind of like my mission now to try to advocate for, you know, musicians who are serious about their craft, you know. So that's how I'm kind of dealing with the grief, you know.
That's very powerful.
He's Cat always used to say like, he's like, you know, man, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. I was always like, shut up, man, like get out of here, man. And like, look at me now, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like a mess, you know. So yeah, he was right. He was right.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, I've told you a million times, but just to meet him when we were so young, and for him to be one of the first jazz concerts we ever saw, and then to like just a couple of years ago to work with him and his wife on his record, that was like full circle. That was, and to hear his voice too after like to be on the phone with him, being like, it's an honor to work and telling him that story. Yeah, and him be like, that's great. That's cool. I don't remember you, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't remember you, man, because he had a like.
Maybe if he saw me, maybe, but I was a child, and it was just like, it was just such an honor for us to be able to do that and put his new music out at the, you know, out onto the jazz names and everything that we were doing, because it was so cool to see everyone play along and send back recordings playing along with his recording. And that recording was so good. I was like, this is the backing track. Yeah. I was like, this is the backing track for Cass. I could just listen to this. Just him by himself. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah, man. It was something, man. Just like superhuman ability, man. You know, and we like went through all the like stages of like sibling, like sibling life. You know what I'm saying?
Being that close, being in the band, and
man, like
touring. You
say dumb stuff to each other, and cats get mad, and then you're like, "Oh, sorry, man," you know, and then you know, but like you know, you view each other like, you know, at the end of the day, that's your brother, you know. So you know, as big of a ball buster as he was, you know, like I think of him in that way, and I always like revere and, you know, cherish his memory. So.
Do you feel like the ball busting specifically? Do you feel like that's part? I feel like that's such a part of the ethos of jazz. I feel like that's an integral part.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the musician, you know, because with him it was like to an elevated level.
Oh, it was like
it was to an elevated level, and you know, but I had already been used to that because like my buddies in college were like just huge ball busters. So, you know, like when I first joined the band, I was very like, okay, this is my employer, so I'm gonna be professional. And then he started breaking balls. I'm like, okay, all right, we're going here. So I started doing it back, and you know, it was like sometimes we would take it too far.
Yeah.
But you know, it was always like in fun. Like some of the stuff I can't repeat. I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
that's respect.
Yeah, but yes, but that's one thing. Like with McBride, there's none of that. Like he's just like he's even keel all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like we joke around like buddies all the time. Like we'll he send me James Brown quotes or you know, quotes from the movie Lean on Me, which like that's been like a 5-year long text thread.
You get any Sanford and Son from him?
Yeah, he knows that like the back of his.
I know.
Like, yeah, but like, you know, Joey was like pretty intense with the ball busting. Like he would like he would do it on stage sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, oh man,
like there are people here.
Yeah, like that video of us playing 100 Ways in Akron.
Okay.
I guess that went went viral.
Yeah.
And people was like, "Oh, I love that guitar solo you played on there." I'm like, really? I never really liked it. But you know, like right as the tune begins, he's like, you know, James Abrams from Akron, and he looks at me. I'm like, because I couldn't wait to play that tune. I was like, they're gonna love it, man. You know, that was like one of our first gigs. I was like, you know, James Abrams from Akron, man. So you know, they're gonna love it. And he was like, just calm down, man.
Yeah.
I was like, man, come on. And so right when we started the tune, it was like James Abrams from Akron. Like,
man, I can't imagine like thinking back to all the shows we went to when we were two. You know, it's like all the jokes going over our heads.
Oh yeah.
All like when
well, sometimes you see them happening, but you don't know what they are. You see the musicians look at each other and laugh, or you know something's happening on stage, and you're just like, I don't know. Sometimes you do know what it is, because sometimes it's obvious to a musician. Sure. Like something just went on with that, and they missed that, or whatever. But yeah, a lot of times you don't. You just
man. If it was us, it was probably like super inappropriate and like not fit for public consumption. But you know, that's you know kind of what made it fun sometimes.
So it keeps you going on the road too.
Yeah.
The road life is not easy.
Not at all.
You got to keep it entertaining, like constantly.
Yeah. No doubt.
Well, that's cool. Now that you're, you know, you're leading, like you talk about that advocacy, and it's like between, you know, the courses and your albums, you know, you're leading more than ever, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because like McBride's trio is not really happening. He's got like 17 other groups,
right?
You know,
the new John,
the new John, the Gen Z band, the Gen X, you know, like he's got all this stuff happening. But so like, and it's nice kind of getting my own thing out there, cause I got like, for example, this bass player. This kid, Brandon Rose, man, this kid is like, he was a child prodigy, and it was just not all that exciting to me, you know, because I'm like, I'd rather hear somebody who's seasoned, but like this kid, it's like, it's not like he's like it's like somebody who said about like one of Segovia's early mentors said like this kid, as he's learning, it's not like he's learning, it's like he's remembering. Like he's been here before. You know what I'm saying? So like he makes all these like really mature musical decisions. You know, he's not like overpowering, but like he can like play horn, like solo, like horn lines. He lays down the pocket. you know, and so like whenever we go somewhere, he's like, oh man, Seattle got a nice vibe. He's like, you know, he's like 24, you know, oh man, Montreal is killing. I'm like, well, you never been here? He's like, no man, this is like the first time I've been out to Canada. I'm like, oh, that's right, you're a child, you know, but because he plays with such maturity, I forget how young he is, you know, and he's like, man, yeah, it's really cool to be out here with you, man. Like, yeah, I'm like, dang, man, that was me.
Yeah, he's gonna be telling you, Dan, they're gonna love this tune. They're gonna love this tune. I promise you.
Yeah.
And you're like, just call me, bro, before the gig.
Yeah. But like, yeah, man. So like, it's funny seeing kind of the roles change, you know, and I know, after having some of that sideman experience and some sideman experience that was not positive, like I know what type of band leader I want to be and what kind I don't want to be, you know. So I try to bring that, like, I tell everybody I can, like, oh man, this cat is bad, man. You got to hear this cat, man. He got it all, you know. The advocacy part, you know, because as musicians, if we don't advocate for each other, like, some civilian is not going to be like, man, this cat knows, like, 400 standards.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, they don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, we gotta do that.
What would you say makes a great leader of a band? Because you've been a part, like you're saying, you've been a part, and now you're trying to think in that framework. So, are there specifics in terms of what they do, or what maybe a variety of skill sets?
Yeah, it's like I saw some diagram, not really like a diagram, like some like poster on the internet where it shows the difference between a leader and a boss. Like, and it's like these little stick figures, and the boss, like they're the workers are carrying something, and they're like tugging something, and the boss is shouting at them, you know, but not doing any work. But the leader is on a separate part of the poster, and the leader's doing just as much work and even more than the workers, but he or she is out front. So I think being a good leader is, like, for me, what I try to do is do just as much or more work than the people in the band. Like, I get all the charts together. I think all the music, but at the same time, I take into account the musical tastes of whoever's in the band. I know the drummer, Throck, I know he's coming out of Elvin, Tony, but he loves Weckl and Steve Gadd. So like, I think about, okay, how can I bridge that gap? So we play some Elvin tempos. We play some stuff where he can bring out like the Steve Gadd, especially the Steve Gadd stuff. I love that stuff. He loves a lot of the like pop from the 80s. You know, so we'll play some type of groove that reflects that. You know, Glenn, the piano player, he's coming out of like Brad Mehldau, like Bill Evans. So like, I know whenever we play a ballad, I'm usually just playing the melody. I let Glenn just go into that mode. You know, so I make sure to keep the members of the band engaged by taking their taste into account and their strengths into account. Like, I never, you know, some band leaders would be like, oh, you gotta do my thing, and you're gonna learn by tough love and hazing. That's not my thing. That's not my thing. I don't do that. And I ask the guys to write stuff for the group, and then I learn their stuff, you know, and that kind of helps me be exposed to some stuff that I probably wouldn't have thought of. So
and it gets them invested too, because then they feel like you actually are open or receptive to their ideas too. To avoid some of that other attitude you were talking about. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, that's how I try to, you know, keep it together.
No, it's really important because I mean, like, that's a skill set that is you're teaching it in the real world of situation. You're not going to be in a classroom like, here's how to be a good leader on a band. It's like you got to be on the gig and those situations have to come up to demonstrate the choices that make a good leader.
Yeah, man, and even as far as like, you know, like paying cats, man, like, you know, if the gig, you know, like you want to maintain a certain standard, you know, like you don't want them out here just playing for pennies, but like, and if the gig, you know, if the fee that you're able to receive goes up, then that should reflect in their pay also, if it's possible and if it's feasible. So that's one thing I try to do. Like if we get like a festival that's paying nice, then you know their pay goes up. You know, because like they're bringing their all every just like I am on every gig. So that should be reflected in their compensation.
100%. 100%. Well, I definitely want to, mention, and talk about a little bit about the harmonic freedom, the course, some of the things. I think, this is kind of coming at the end of like a couple shoot days, and I think we captured some pretty special things.
Yeah.
We already did one course before, fretboard freedom. So, what did you feel was still missing, or what did you really want to capture with this course that we didn't capture in the first one? Because I think we did capture some very unique stuff here.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a continuation of that of fretboard freedom, because that was more focused on playing single lines, and which is like, it's flashy, and it's like to get you the Instagram views and all that stuff, but you gotta have some other stuff.
Seven Dan Wilson lines.
Right. Seven Dan Wilson hacks.
That's actually my next YouTube video.
Oh my god.
That's what you're gonna call it. 7 Dan Wilson hacks. Just for him.
I'll tag you in the video.
Oh no.
Name of this podcast: 7 Dan Wilson hacks and more.
That's horrible.
Ball busted and sons of a gun.
Right. But like so, I've noticed, like, when I'm in like a quartet setting, I play a lot more single line stuff. But like, I've always loved going back to like the guitar, bass, and drum setting, or like a duo setting where, and almost instinctively, I play more of a mixture of chords and lines, because I don't have to worry about clashing with another harmonic instrument. And so I would like to see more players have that skill. So we kind of discuss how to be a little more fluent there. We go through a bunch of basics, a bunch of fundamental stuff, and we see kind of how that ties into real world application. As far as like, running lines into chords, playing more like pianistically, just kind of having the given the not illusion, but sort of the illusion that you have right hand and left hand, like a piano player. I've always loved, because I've listened to so many piano players. I've always loved that the interplay between right and left hand. So there are ways to kind of to give off that effect on the guitar without like killing yourself.
Yeah, you got into so much, especially with the bass lines, with a lot of the practical examples between a bunch of the gospel techniques, the montunos, the chord melody concepts, going through a bunch of standards throughout.
Yeah.
And then even the sections where we're involved, where it's like live comping situations, where you really are, and the members can really see like you in that real situation.
Yeah, I'm glad we did it like that, because it's like, I can only listen to myself, for so long. After a while, that's why COVID was so tough, because I was like, man, I'm like tired of hearing myself, But having you guys there and being able to react to what you're doing, that gives it a more realistic aspect to. Because like and things aren't always perfect and buttoned up because I had to react in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's a real life situation, and I want to leave a lot of those kind of mistakes in there.
Yeah, and it makes sense, especially talking about like comping, where if it was a backing track or if it was you soloing to just soloing, record that, then comp to that, then there's no way of that interaction. It's two separate things, which is really counter to the whole idea you're trying to talk about and demonstrate, like, you know, like in a couple of different solos, how your comping style switches between a bunch of different things in different combinations. That wouldn't have happened with the backing track situation. So
those backing tracks just suck the life out of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's value to them.
They have their purpose. But
but it's not like, I mean, if you can play with another human being, you know, please do.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I think, and a lot of cool things came from that that section of the course. I'm really looking forward to seeing how people react to that.
Yeah, and then after each of the songs, we have like the little post-game analysis of talking through how we were each thinking through this as the soloist, as the accompanist, and what the interplay was. So that's pretty interesting too. I haven't seen really either of those in another course done in that way.
Cool.
So,
So buy that sucker.
Yeah. So check it out.
Well, I mean,
this is probably a good place to wrap it up anyways. I think we've been going
oh man,
a
well,
little bit.
I'd say, Dan, it's been such a pleasure having you down here for a couple days for this shoot, for this pod, for the show. You know, something we're doing, going to be doing more and more.
Cool.
And until the next one, the Freedom Series, man.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate all your wisdom and the stories and everything, man.
I think the next one's rhythmic freedom, and this is when you have your what is it?
Bata.
He's gonna be teaching the bata.
Yeah, you might be onto something. Man. You might be onto something.
It's the final part. It's the final part.
Yeah.
We did the melodic, the lines, the improv, the harmonic.
Hey, man, I'll see you guys next February, man. That'll work.
Even we could just tell your wife that that's what we're filming, and we just go to Miami and then
perfect.
Yeah,
have a 3-day vacation.
You know, the course never came out. You know those jazz news guys. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.